Good evening. Welcome to the January 24th, 2022 Troy City Council meeting. We're honored this evening to have Pastor Simeon Timbuk from the Bethesda Romanian Pentecostal Church to provide our invocation. Pastor Timbuk, please come to the podium. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Heavenly Father, we are thankful and grateful for your grace, for your protection, enabling us to come tonight here for the City Council meeting. I ask you to bless the council members with your wisdom and discernment, and bless all of us with your peace and harmony. Bless us in the new year 2022 to be a year of prosperity, of peace, and protection over us, over our family, over the city of Troy, the state of Michigan, and the United States of America. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Good to see you. Officially call the January 24th, 2022 Troy City Council meeting to order and ask for the roll call. Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Abraham?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
All present this evening. First up are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have two this evening. C1 is a service commendation for Information Technology Director Gert Paraskevin. I'll present that to Gert if you meet me at the podium. Hugs are allowed these days for a number of reasons, but here, come join me over here. So, Gert, our Information Technology Director, is retiring, and we're sad to see her go for a number of reasons. I do have the service commendation I'm going to read into the record. I'm going to start with that, okay?
Okay.
Whereas Gert Paraskevin began her career with the City of Troy on January 6, 1997, as the Information Technology Director. Gert graduated from York University in Downsview, Ontario, Canada, with a Bachelor's of Business Administration with concentrations in Management Science and Finance. She continued her education in the Computer Science program at Oakland University. And whereas, after being hired as the first City of Troy Information Technology Director, Gert worked to establish the IT department, which was initially a part of the Finance department with only 3 employees. Now the IT department has 11 dedicated employees. And whereas, as the city's IT director, Gert and her team implemented a city-wide network that was initially comprised of 12 Windows NT servers, offering print and file services, and exchange email to 300 users. The network currently contains 70 Windows servers and more than 500 workstations. And whereas, early on, Gert purchased and put into production a new IBM AS400 to implement a city-wide financial software package, JD Edwards. As IT Director, Gert served as frontline support for all applications, including GL, AP, purchasing, human resources, and payroll, and developed a new citywide budget system utilizing JD Edwards. And whereas Gert worked hard to eliminate silos of data and processes within departments by utilizing systems and IT staff to create shared data and workflows among departments. Some of the main systems implemented to help with that included JD Edwards and then New World Tyler Financial Systems, ESRI Geographic Information Systems, BSNA Building, Tax, Assessing, and Utility Billing, Highland On-Base Document Imaging, CityWorks Customer Service and Asset Management, Kronos Time Management, and whereas working with an exceptional and dedicated staff and creating an environment that has resulted in implementation of many great technical and creative ideas are what Gert is most proud of. She credits them with pushing her to move the IT department forward and for the IT department's success. And whereas Gert will retire from the City of Troy on February 1st, 2022, after 25 years of dedicated service, many commendation letters in her employee file, and the utmost respect from the Troy residents, City Council, residents, and the Troy business community, Troy employees, sorry, instead of residents Troy, Troy employees, City Council, residents, and the Troy business community. And whereas Gert will now enjoy more time with her husband Ken, married 40 years on September 12th, 2021, daughter Emily, son Michael, and his fiancée Chelsea, as well as enjoy traveling around the country and beyond, especially trips to San Diego to visit their daughter. In retirement, Gert plans to work out, relax for a while, and if she gets bored, consider volunteering or finding a part-time job in the technology field. We might be hiring, so we can come back. Now, therefore, be it known that the mayor and city council of the city of Troy take this opportunity to express their appreciation to City of Troy Information Technology Director Gert Paraskeven for her professionalism and her many, many contributions to the city of Troy for the betterment of the community. And be it further known that the mayor and city council of the city of Troy, city management, and the citizens of the city of Troy extends wishes of prosperity, good health, and happiness to Gert during her well-deserved retirement years. This proclamation is presented this 24th day of January 2022, signed by myself as the mayor. All members of City Council have signed it as well. Gert, I present this to you. I congratulate you on behalf of the city and know that there's a big hole with you leaving, and well, of course, we'll be in good hands because you've set it up that way. But I'm really sad to see you go, and I know many, many people here at the City of Troy are. So thank you for all your service. Congratulations. Say a few words?
Sure.
Please.
I'm going to take this off just because I can speak
Yeah, I should
better.
have done that.
That's okay. So thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for the commendation and for your support during your tenures and of all of those that went before you. I always felt supported with any request I had to bring to City Council. I also want to say thank you for the support of City Management and the City Manager's Office and all department heads. You've all been supportive, gracious, and accommodating, always ready to jump on board for any new ideas out of IT. I want to thank all city staff who actually had to learn and use the new systems and processes we introduced. Without them, where would we all be, right? It is clear to me that I would not have been able to accomplish a thing in my career here without the help of a great team, and I've been lucky enough to work with one of the best. Thank you to everyone in the IT department for your dedication and support. Last but not least, I want to thank my family for their love and support over my career and allowing me to be their technical support most of their life. My husband Ken and son Michael and fiancée Chelsea are here in the audience. And my daughter Emily, who's not here but hopefully watching the live stream from San Diego. Hi, Emily. Don't worry if you miss it. It's being recorded. You can watch it over and over again. I've truly enjoyed the opportunity that John Lamorato offered me in 1997 to work for the City of Troy. When I started here, never in my wildest dreams did I picture myself in this position 25 years later. Thank you, John. I'm proud of the IT department. I'm lucky to have made some lifelong friends here, and the City of Troy will always have a place close to my heart. Thank you.
The mask. Thank you to the family for coming. It's important that you're here. I really appreciate it, and I can tell how much it means to you to have her back a little bit. So thank you, Gert. We talk a lot about technology, but 25 years ago, technology was a lot different in city government, I think. And they didn't even have computer systems in here when Gert started. So it's just fascinating to think about. But okay, well, next up is C2, a legislative update from our state representative, Padma Kupa. Good to see you, Representative Kupa.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and everyone in the room. Good to be here to give an in-person update. I just wanted to tell you a few of the things that have been happening and a few of the things that will be happening over the course of the next few months. But I'll start first with saying if anyone wants to reach out to me, you know where to find me. padmakupa@house.mi.gov. Please, anyone watching, please sign up for legislative updates at kupa.housedems.com or call me 517-373-1783. And you can always email me at padmakupa@house.mi.gov. I have a very able and capable legislative team that supports the work I'm doing. We've already put out 2 newsletters for the year, our capital and community updates. In that, we mentioned that we are going to simplify and have in-person coffee hours every month at the Troy Community Center, not in a room, but in the main hallway, because it makes me more visible to the community. We did reserve a room, and nobody could figure out where I was, so I took a page out of former Representative Harlach's book and sat in the main thoroughway. And today we had a phenomenal attendance with a lot of people from a number of people who are concerned about the I-75 noise issues, and I got a list of all the subdivisions I believe that are impacted. So if there's anyone that knows that somebody's missing, I'm going to just read them off to you. Charnwood, Charnwood Hills, Wingate, Country Ridge, Forest Creek, Fox Hill, Crescent Park, Bridge South, and Troy Meadows. If there's any other subdivision that is impacted, please reach out to my office and let us know. We are actively engaging on this issue with MDOT, with the governor's office, and obviously with City Manager Mark Miller and all of you on council. It is a concern of mine since attending a MDOT meeting in Madison Heights back in 2019. So this is not something, and it's not something easy to fix either, because it's a long-term problem. It involves complications between federal legislation, how we implement it, and so we are working on it as best we can. Sometimes government is slow, and it's a good thing, but sometimes government is not fast enough, and it's not a good thing. So please join me Mondays, the 4th Monday of the month at 4:30 at Troy Community Center. Quick note on redistricting. At the end of December, the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission approved the final maps. Please check the website of the Independent Redistricting Commission. House District 41 will not be located in one district. Troy and Clawson will now be either in House District, the people who are represented by me currently will either be in House District 56, which is west of John R., and House District 57, which is east of John R. with a portion of Sterling Heights. So that's the 57th district. As far as legislative updates, besides the I-75 Soundwall study, which we do have $300,000 for, my last bill that I introduced in 2021 was related to funding for menstrual products in schools. This bill would provide funding for schools who opt to provide menstrual products in at least some of their bathrooms. Last year, Governor Whitmer signed into law something that I championed in my this since the beginning, which was to tampon tax repeal. So I think this is a really good step going forward for those who menstruate. In addition, I've had some continuing conversations about Justice for Allie. These are the pair of bills that I introduced not only in my first term, but also in my second term to close a loophole in the law that our own police department detected to ensure that vulnerable adults are protected from online sexual predators. The House bills are a bipartisan pair of bills, House Bill 4159 and 4160. With Representative Julie Kelly. The bills passed the first committee. They got a hearing in Judiciary. They are still awaiting a vote in Judiciary, and so we are waiting. So if you would like to send, perhaps consider sending Graham Filler at house.mi.gov an email to voice your support. I would highly appreciate it. We have a number of organizations also supporting it. In fact, I was on a legislative call, Zoom, this afternoon with the Disability Caucus, and they, with their numerous organizations and stakeholders, have sent Representative Filler, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, a request to vote on the bill. So it goes through the House. Once it goes through the House, it has to go through the Senate. but we are on top of that. We know where it needs to go, and we're going to keep chasing all the people who can move it forward to help our vulnerable adults. Also, during the break, I have been connecting with some of our students who are very concerned about what happened in Oxford. The young people in Oxford and the teachers and educators all went back today. It has been weighing heavily on my mind, and one of our own Global Troy Advisory Council members, Allison, and I are working together with Senator Rosemary Bayer and some folks from Moms Demand Action, which does a lot of advocacy, a nonprofit that does advocacy on gun violence prevention. Senator Bayer is the chair of the Gun Violence Prevention and Firearm Safety Caucus, and we will be talking with, doing a roundtable with students and educators and their parents on what they can do to ensure that their voices are heard in Lansing by lawmakers. They may not have the ability to vote, but they definitely have the ability to speak up. The other caucus that I am very active in is an organization or a caucus called the Care Caucus. We have had a shortage of direct care workers for a very long time, about 22,000 care workers short as of 2020 January. And so I've been working with the Direct Care Worker Coalition, as well as other stakeholders like the area agencies on aging, to ensure that we address those needs not only in our budget but also in our policy positions. And so that is a caucus that I co-chair with Representative Helena Scott. Another bipartisan effort that I am taking on is asking for money within the appropriations process that is upcoming. Representative Julie Kelly and I are asking our colleagues to work with us to support Michigan nonprofits. During the pandemic, many nonprofits across the state with a budget of $1 million or less did not have the ability to seek PPP money and ensure that their organizations could support and provide the services that they do. We're very fortunate, as you can see. We have a small nonprofit with a budget of less than $1 million here in Troy called the Troy Historic Society that operates for the city of Troy, the Troy Historic Village. And we are very lucky that we had people on our board and on our staff, including Executive Director Jen Peters and all her team, who work diligently to make sure that we continue to stay open during the pandemic. But there are many nonprofits across the state that are not as fortunate, and so we both wanted to work on that. Another couple of meetings that I've had over the last few weeks, since we have not been able to go to session because some people were exposed to COVID and came with COVID to the legislature. We were not in chambers, but I was able to meet with officials from Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Last week we had a hearing at Tax Policy on House Bill 5601. This would provide tax breaks to companies that come and invest in Michigan and provide opportunities, economic opportunities. One of the things that I asked, and I continue to ask, is we have a huge worker shortage across the state of Michigan. And what I would like to see is that we also incentivize workers, especially our college graduates, to stay here. The brain drain in Michigan is real, and we need to address it, as many of us with adult children know. And so the Michigan Economic Development Corporation is aware of that effort and that interest of mine. As far as future mobility and electrification, that falls under the Labor and Economic Development Office. I do have another bipartisan set of bills on improving our electric vehicle infrastructure. I have been asking them with the task force that the governor had to ensure that we push forward on our electric vehicle and future mobility initiatives, including supporting House Bills 4801, 02, 03, 04, 05. My bill and the late Andrea Schroeder's bill actually did pass the House. However, they have not, as a package, gone to the Senate yet. The three remaining bills in that package are yet to pass the House. And then last, This year, I was finally able to make contact with the new director of the Office of Global Michigan. Troy is still the most global city in the state, and I am very proud of that. And so we had a 45-minute conversation talking about all the ways we can partner. I would like to connect her with all of you at some point, or invite her to the Global Troy Advisory Committee to share what she does and what her office does. Primarily, they are focused on supporting the commissions. There are several commissions, the Asian Pacific American Affairs Commission, the Hispanic Commission, so on and so forth. But she also helps with refugee resettlement. We know that Michigan is receiving a number of people coming in as from Afghanistan, as well as other places. And then she does also want to work on economic opportunities to ensure that foreign direct investment, as we see so often here in Oakland County, is provided for. I will stop there. I probably went way over what you thought I was going to say, but it's been a long time, and it's good to be here to share all the things that I've been doing. I do want to also thank Attorney Lori Grigg-Bloom. I sent her a bill that I am working on as part of a package. Thank you for your ongoing support when I send you bills that I have questions about.
Thank you, Representative Krupa. Any questions from council? Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Thanks, Padma, for being here. This is my first time here in 6 weeks, because I was out last meeting. But what is the latest update on the state ARPA funds and how those are going to be allocated? I know ours. There's a report in our agenda that ours, the final rule has been set, and we're kind of going to do it through our normal budget process. But I'm wondering what's up with the state, 'cause I know the state got a lot. And I'm curious what the latest on that is.
Correct. And these are conversations that I have with constituents all the time. We have a majority that is Speaker Wentworth in the House and Senate Majority Leader Shirkey in the Senate. And the two of them hear what the governor has to say. They are the ones that make the final decisions. They set the legislative agenda. So even though I may introduce a bill that is extremely critical for the state, if they don't want, their committee chairs don't want to advance those bills. But I am trying my hardest to be persuasive, and I will give you an example. We've had a pair of bills that Democrats have introduced for 12 years that would allow people who are on H-1B or on J-1 who are going through their visa renewal process and they can't get their driver's license renewed. I didn't understand while I was working at Chrysler and Ally Financial. I knew about it, but I didn't know how to fix it. Well, I came into the legislature and I heard from constituents who needed their licenses renewed. And so I actually introduced a bill early 2021 to help fix it. And Representative Jim Lilly, the chair of Rules and Competitiveness, actually wanted to move it forward. However, there were a number of others who didn't, and so the hearing that we had scheduled for September 14th was canceled. The speaker has agreed that he will get back to me this year. So it really, I would suggest again that all of you reach out to the leaders of both chambers. While the governor can propose, the legislature is the one that votes on the budget, and so any advocacy that you can do. I work closely with MML because I know that they have a voice, not only with the leaders of both chambers, but also with the members. And so they can be great advocates as well.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you so much, Mayor. So, Representative Krupa, thank you for all the rich work you're doing. And I had the same question actually as Councilmember Hamilton and had a follow-up question which relates to MML. So MML helped to build a multi-stakeholder coalition for a strong and prosperous Michigan. And it was all about using ARPA dollars in strategic ways for truly transformative infrastructure, as well as centering community wealth building in many ways. And just wondering, has that coalition gotten any traction in Lansing, traction in the legislature and beyond?
That coalition, I have actually been part of that awareness of that and have been trying to share that with my fellow legislators, but also with constituents. we just need to keep on keeping on that particular issue. I will say that we have someone close by who is the new board president of the Michigan Municipal League, Barb Ziarka. Barb Ziarka is the council member in Sterling Heights, and I'm very excited to be working with her on these issues as well.
So recognizing the partisanship in Lansing, not a surprise to any of us. We'll stay tuned, I guess, for what the majority brings to the floor regarding ARPA funds. Is that your synopsis on that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My other thing is, I think you left out Beach Forest subdivision when you were talking about the sound wall. Maybe I didn't. I know they'd be very upset if they thought they were being left behind. So if they're not on your list, make sure you add Beach Forest. I know they've worked with the group that you met with earlier today.
No, they're on the list.
They're on
must
there.
have just
Okay.
skipped
I
over
might
that.
not have written it down.
Sunil Sekri was there at the meeting.
Okay, that's all I needed to know on that one. And then as far as the global aspect, reach out to Mark and we can schedule something with Global Troy to have the visitor. That'd be great.
Okay.
So thank you.
I also want to just say thank you for those of you who have been paying attention to the bill that I introduced to protect pollinators. So we actually introduced on World Bee Day a pair of bills, myself and Representative Steckloff, to protect our pollinators. And Rochester Pollinators has been very passionate about the mayor's Monarch Pledge. And so Brian Barnett did it.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm going to cut you off, Padma, because I've already got the stuff ready to fill out. I got some information. You know, our nature center already does a lot for the monarchs, so I will include that in my application for submitting this mayor's pledge. So don't worry. You don't have to pressure me.
And I will also tell you that this is taking off my state representative hat, but putting on my Padma Kupa. I'm a constituent. I was here 20 years ago asking the City of Troy Council to put a cricket ground in Troy. And Sterling Heights is planning more than one. Rochester already has one. Just leaving that on the table. Thank you.
Any state funds available? Thanks, Representative Koopa. Appreciate it. That concludes certificates of recognition and special presentations. There are no carryover items this evening or public hearings. Now it's time for public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Nobody's here and signed up, so there's no need for reply from any of us. No postponed items this evening, so we move on to regular business. First up, board and committee appointments, mayoral appointments. I do have one this evening. I'd like to move Michelle Schoen to the Board of Review for the term expiring January 31st, 2025.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve the appointment of Michelle Schoen to the Board of Review for the term expiring January 31st, 2025. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that concludes mayoral appointments this evening. I now turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt for city council appointments.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the appointment of Gary Abithira to the Building Code Board of Appeals for the term expiring January 1, 2027.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga, that we approve the appointment of Gary Abithira to the Building Code Board of Appeals for the term expiring January 1st, 2027. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes. Motion carries. We thank Mr. Abithira for his continued service. And do you have the ZBA PC rep? Do you see that?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's right here.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals for Lakshmi Malahala. I'm sorry, Lakshmi. For the term expiring December 31st, 2022.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Brooks, that we approve the appointment or confirm the appointment of Lakshmi Malalahali as the Planning Commission rep on the Zoning Board of Appeals for the term expiring December 31st, 2022. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes City Council appointments this evening. Next up is I-2, Board and Committee nominations. No mayoral nominations this evening, so I'll turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt for City Council nominations.
Thank you, Mayor. Second here to get my, okay. Yes, I'd like to nominate to the Election Commission, Stephen Sadlier and Ray Watts, both for terms expiring January 31st, 2023.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we approve the nomination to the Election Commission of Stephen Sadlier and Ray Watts for the terms expiring January 31st, 2023. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Motion carries. That concludes City Council nominations for boards and committees this evening. We next move up to I-3, which is a request for closed session. I'll move I-3, be it resolved that Troy City Council shall meet in closed session as permitted by MCL 15.268E, pending litigation, Staffa versus Troy, Tollbrook versus Troy, and Tollbrook West versus Troy.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, that we approve I-3, the request for closed session, as just read into the record and printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Yes.
Motion carries. At the conclusion of this public portion of the meeting, we'll recess into the closed session and adjourn from there at the end of the evening. Next up is I-4, the Leadership Group 2021 City of Troy Advanced Presentation. And I'll turn that over to City Manager Mark Miller.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. As our quest to become a high-performing governing body, we have done a few things, especially coming out of the past from the previous city manager. You know, we've hired Plant Moran to do a few things for us, and we have also implemented quite a few of their recommendations. We've conducted a citizen survey, a library survey, and we're working on the business survey right now. Correct, Bob? Yep. And another thing we tried and we did procurement for was to have a third party come in and help facilitate what has now been coined an advance. And so with us today, we have Wanda Stallworth, Linda Jeffries, and Jose Reyes, who are going to make a presentation and inform us of the summary of the advance that we did. God, was it the second week of November? It seems like a long time ago, but pretty much I'm going to turn the floor over to our consultants, and obviously when we're done, you have an opportunity to ask questions and have an interaction. This is just not a presentation, but if you have questions, feel free to ask, and eventually we're going to have discussions with council and management about where we go next and what we do next. We're not here to actually decide that this evening, but that's on our mind, and we will come with you to schedule meetings in the future to have those very important discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Miller. Welcome.
Welcome.
Good to see you again.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Baker, to the City Council, to the City Manager, and to the Assistant City Manager. I am Wanda Stallworth from the Leadership Group. Take the mask off. And I'm glad to be here with you today with my colleagues. And we want to thank you for the opportunity to allow us to help you with your planning process as you look forward to the budget for 2022. And so you all were aware of the report that was sent out prior to the meeting today and had an opportunity to look at it. So I'm not going to go into great detail with regard to that, but I did want to touch upon the issues and some of the recommendations that came about as a result of the activities that took place in terms of the planning process. As you remember, we had one-on-one interviews with each member of the council, as well as some data gathering activity that took place, and then the big event, the advance that took place, the 6-hour event, that we went over some strategic priorities and put together some issues and concerns and some solutions and recommendations. So I just want to touch upon those. In terms of the issues, challenges, and the suggestions and recommendations, there were 4. And the topics were communication and community engagement and facilities. There was the core facilities and infrastructure, as well as the facilities regarding the quality of life, as well as funding. And so we talked about each of those issues, and there were some recommendations for each of those topics, and I'll just touch upon those briefly. Under communications and community engagement, the possible solutions and recommendations that were brought forth was to develop a centralized communication and engagement team dedicated to public relations and outreach, to create a vision identity with residents providing feedback first, and to create 5-minute educational videos on issues and topics like funding scenarios. For facilities, the core facilities and infrastructures, the issues and challenges provided solutions and recommendations, such as create and implement a vision for staffing, to create and implement and communicate publicly a vision and budget for City Hall capital improvements, and to explore the use of the infrastructure bill to support City Hall improvements. For facilities regarding the quality of life amenities, the solutions and recommendations included to formulate a plan for the Aquatic Center, to develop a vision and 10 to 20-year plan for quality of life and leisure activities, and to explore ideas and publicly share options, including funding strategies. And under the topic of funding, the solutions and recommendations that were offered was to ask residents for a park and recreations millage, to explore non-committee approaches to remove the millage cap, and to utilize community engagement forums to identify priorities and then develop funding options, and to separate funding between wants and needs. In addition to these suggestions and recommendations, we also offered a few recommendations for you as you move forward with putting these plans in action. And that is to distribute the report as appropriate, and to let it serve as a reminder of the fine work that you have already done today. And to work again with the advanced planning work group, Mark and Bob, to oversee the development of goals and objectives, and to really map out a detailed action plan in terms of the implementation of the things that you have identified as important. And then to complete a strategic plan document that can be shared publicly. And the document should include, at a minimum, your vision, mission, and guiding principles, to speak to your core values and your strategic goal statements, and to provide other elements that can include a letter of support signed by the council and the administration. So at this point, I'm going to ask if you had any questions for us with regard to the report.
Thank you, Ms. Stallworth. I appreciate the 3 of you coming this evening. Good to see you all again. Questions from council based on what was in the report or anything said tonight? No questions. That's a good sign.
All right.
Means
We thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Good to see you all. Council, I hesitate to ask this, but we didn't ask questions, but were there any comments specifically on this report that anyone felt they needed to share this evening? Don't want anyone to feel left out, just making sure. Councilmember Hoderick.
I guess I would like to thank the consultants for coming in and recognize that the advance was a a step away from an approach that we had been undertaking under our previous city manager. And this is a foundational step we've taken for residents who maybe are just dialing into the fact that of strategic plan, they might look at this agenda item and say, wait, this is it from the 6-hour meeting, or that this was an introductory discussion and a first for a new council that had come together with this administration to meet as a team. That alone is valuable and isn't something that we're always able to do as an outside policy setting body, actually hear from the folks that are on the front lines and our department heads. And that is so instructive. And I think all of council that day, I shouldn't speak for you all, but it is instructive to hear from folks. And I went into that day not sure exactly what to expect. And now, seeing some of the early outcomes of this first discussion, it's, believe it or not, this is really wonderfully foundational compared to what we had before. Members of council that were on before will know that this is a very professional, business-like approach that we took that day that, to me, is foundational. And we have work to do. It takes time and effort to do really good quality strategic planning. And it starts with that just base understanding of where we are. And I wanted to just thank you for the time you spent with us and getting to know us even through the interviews. I think it's valuable to have almost a neutral party looking in on us and hearing our perceptions as council members, the realities of our staff. And personally, I have this guarded optimism of, oh, finally, 9 years in on council with a strategic planning background, I think we have the place from which we can start to move forward. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the work staff did and the time they would have spent in the interviews. And if you haven't been around a while, you might not fully appreciate the value of this moment in time as a milestone in the city's history. It's one that I think we're going to be able to look back, if we do our jobs well, that we'll be able to look back on and say, that was the point where the car started to re-enter the highway, looking in its rearview mirrors, side mirrors, checking everything, and then proceeded. And maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I feel very optimistic about this going forward, and I thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hoderick. I think we all share the gratitude, so that's from all of us for sure. On that note, City Manager Miller, you mentioned talking about setting up we need to do some further work on this. I think it's probably, I think there's consensus from this council, I'm guessing, to start looking at dates or some conversation starters or whatever we're going to do to move the ball forward. I mean, I think that's a priority for us.
Sounds good. We'll come back at another meeting with some potential dates after we schedule some dates today.
Right, but recognizing we're approaching the budget and everything, and time's going to go fast, so we want to.
The one thing I want to disclose that not only council members, but myself and maybe the city attorney are going to be missing some meetings coming up in the future, which also adds a little difficulty for scheduling purposes.
Understandable. We'll make it work. Thank you. Thank you again. Next up is I-5, bid waiver, Troy Public Library Youth Area Renovation Architectural Services, and that'll be introduced by our Library Director, Emily Dumas, who's virtually joining us, and I see Assistant Library Director Phil Quick is there as well. Good to see you both.
Good to see you. Good evening. Thank you for having us. So one of the major outcomes of the millage that was approved last year was that we would get to move forward on some much needed renovation projects. And a big priority of that was the youth services renovation. To give a little bit of background, and the truth is, only being director for less than a year, I don't have the full picture, and that's why I'm glad to have Philip here who can fill in a lot of these details. But the library originally, when it began in 1971, what is now the youth department was the entire library. And then in 1984, it was obviously expanded out to include now what's the adult center and the the lobby area with the circulation desk and our meeting room. And the youth area then became an actual youth department. The thing is, though, much of that has remained the same over the years. We still have some of that furniture that was put in place in 1984, and it really isn't suitable for the modern library user, and it's not suitable for how busy that department is. Even in these kind of strange times where we don't have in-person programming back yet, that department is still really hopping, and there's a lot of people using it, a lot of people using it to study. And then once we get past all of this and get back to some normalcy, where you'll see how just crammed in that place gets with people attending programs, people playing in the toy section, people reading, studying. It's a very busy department. So it definitely needs some changes. In 2019, Philip and Kathy began working with Integrated Design Solutions, IDS, to create a conceptual design for the department. And that got put on hold with COVID, but as I took over as director and we got a new head of youth services, Keegan Splecki, we were able to revisit that plan pretty recently. And we looked over it, we made some necessary revisions that we thought would be the best fit for the department. We all came away happy with the plan that's in place. So this evening, what we're going to ask is to waive the bid process and continue on with IDS for the next phases of the renovation process. So the design development phase, the construction documents, and the construction administration. I'd also like to turn it over to my assistant director, Philip Quick, if he has anything to add, since he has a much deeper understanding of the project.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you to the council. This is a project that has been, as Emily said, in the works for 3 years now. And not only will it bring a much needed upgrade to the furnishings in the department and things like that, but there are so many new demands on the services of the department. There's demands for baby playing areas and demands for quiet study areas and demands for all kinds of new technology, demands for an enhanced multi-purpose room. And all of those types of things are going to be enhanced or are going to be included in this program, in this plan, in this potential renovation. So we're very excited about it. We're excited about moving forward with IDS with council's approval. And at some point, they're willing to come in and sort of give a report on the plan and to bring you up to date on sort of all of the exciting things that could potentially be in the youth department.
Well, thank you both. Any questions from council for either Emily or Phil? No questions. Someone like to move the resolution? Councilmember Abraham.
I will move I-5 bid waiver, Troy Public Library Youth Area Renovation Architectural Services as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Abraham and supported by Councilmember Hoderick that we approve I-5 bid waiver, Troy Public Library Youth Area Renovation Architectural Services as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Councilmember Hamilton.
It's exciting to see, despite still being in COVID, the fruit that the City of Troy residents are now bearing because they wanted to fully fund our library. It's great to see this. I know Victoria loves going to the library and running around. She's going to be really happy to have a new area to run around in a few years.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamilton. Councilmember Hoderick, or Abraham.
Thank you, Mayor. I remember when the new portion of the library opened in 1984. I think I might be the only one at the table that was there for that. I was young, but I remember the library being closed for an extended period of time, and it broke this 8-year-old's heart. It always surprises me to hear how long we've kept that furniture, that vintage from 1984. So, I mean, clearly this is past due. I appreciate the efforts of our current library director, our former library director, and library staff of doing so much with what they've had for as long as they possibly could. But it is definitely, time is up. The books are due back to the library, if you will. And this is something that I'm very happy to support. Bid waivers are ones that I always look at very closely. And when it comes to library design, many people don't realize what a specialized effort that is. You can't just go to any architectural firm. You can't go to just any design services. There are requirements, for, in layman's terms, books are really heavy. You can't just put shelving anywhere. You can't just change the layout of a building like you might move furniture in your house. There are really specific requirements. And when you talk about the youth services area, that is the oldest part of the building, over 50 years old. It has, I'll say, some architectural challenges inherent to it. The work that's been done so far to improve it has been wonderful, and am really happy to support this bid waiver because I know the quality of effort that will come should council choose to approve it tonight, which I think they will.
Thank you, Councilmember Abraham. Any other discussion? Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, Emily, I just want to say those renderings, they do look great. And I know we talked earlier in the fall, I reached out through city management that I got feedback from a resident wanting to see the vision of what was moving forward, and could at some point the library put those renderings out and share them with the public. And I know you said you're still working on them. They'll come before council. And that if, and I'm optimistic, I'm going to support them. I'm optimistic we'll support them. And you have a vision that you really do want to share those and really brand them as your millage at work. Be able to have them in the entrance so that when residents come into the library right away, they see that vision and they see it branded your millage at work, and they can see that in action. So I just want to say that's brilliant thinking. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about what's ahead. And my son does spend a lot of time in that room, so I look forward to coming back.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain Craig. Anyone else? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you both.
Thank you, Council.
Next up is I6, a bid waiver, a smart power generator for Ladder 1, as to be introduced by Chief Rearster. Hi, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. As you know, the fire department utilizes generators on all of our apparatus to supply power for auxiliary lighting and for tools. Ladder 1 is a 2007 Sutphen ladder truck, makes it 15 years old, and it is equipped with a 10 kilowatt smart power generator. That generator, like all the others, were designed and installed to meet auxiliary power needs for that vehicle. Well, as luck would have it, during routine preventive maintenance, issues were discovered with the generator, and these issues are preventing the unit from delivering its designed power load. Unfortunately, they can't be corrected mostly because of the age of the generator and the parts being unavailable for it. So in an effort to be more cost effective, my staff conducted an electrical demand evaluation for the vehicle, and by implementing more energy efficient tools, it was determined that a smaller generator would supply the necessary power for a lower cost to the city. So we're recommending to replace the current 10 kilowatt smart power generator with a new 6 kilowatt smart power generator. The bid process includes Apollo Fire Equipment of Romeo, who is the only authorized distributor for smart power generators in Southeast Michigan, as well as being the only authorized repair facility for Sutphen fire apparatus. So by utilizing the same generator manufacturer, we can also reduce or eliminate any needed modifications when installing the replacement unit. That step also saves us money. So what we're asking tonight is to approve a waiver of the bid process and award a contract to Apollo Fire Equipment so that we can purchase and replace our generator on Ladder 1. And with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from council? All right. Someone like to move the resolution? Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move I6, bid waiver, smart power generator for Ladder 1 as printed in the agenda.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Brooks, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt, that we approve I-6 bid waiver smart power generator for ladder 1 as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Next up is I-7 2022 City Council meeting schedule. That'll be introduced by Assistant City Manager Bob Bruner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's January 24th, so it's time to schedule some special council meetings. And the first topics up this year is a meeting to discuss City Council rules of procedure. And specifically, we want to give City Council an opportunity to talk about proclamations because we're getting more and more of them, and they become more complex to handle. And around the corner in March will be personnel evaluations for the city attorney and excuse me, the city manager. Now the proposed dates for the rules of procedure topic are very flexible. There's really no specific timing or scheduling that we're working off there. So happy to discuss alternative dates if the ones proposed don't work. On the other hand, the Wednesday, March 23rd meeting for the personnel evaluations requires not just the council and the city attorney and the city manager, but also the evaluation consultant, James Petrino. And we know that they're all available on Wednesday, March 23rd, so we're really hoping that date will work for city council as well. But ultimately, it's up to you to schedule the meetings. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
City Manager Miller.
Just really quick, I just want to let council know on the February 14th date, I will be in Boston. My son will be in the Beanpot Hockey Tournament with Northeastern University, so I will not be here the 14th.
All right.
And, sorry, Bob, really quick, can you summarize the procurement related to GovHR USA?
Yeah, sure. You recall a couple years ago when we first started the process with GovHR and James Petrino for the city attorney and the city manager evaluations, we had issued a request for proposals, only got one proposal back, entered into an agreement with GovHR, not only to create the process, but also facilitate the process for the first 2 years. So that initial agreement is over. But their proposal to continue providing the services on an annual basis is much less than $10,000 or a threshold that would require city council approval. The first one didn't require city council approval from a dollar amount perspective either, but since it's your process, we wanted the city council to have that input. So unless there's objections, we plan to continue with James Petrino and GovHR.
I just want to weigh in on that really quick. I hope this council sees the value in what GovHR does, whether it's James now or in the future. For those who weren't on council, before we did that, it was a much different and horrible process. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So I would encourage all council to nod yes that we continue in that path. Look at that. All right. I also, recognizing that City Manager Miller isn't going to be here on February 14th, I would like to propose that we move the resolution for Monday, February 28th, scheduling that meeting at 6 p.m. for the City Council Rules of Procedure and for personnel evaluation on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve I-7 2022 City Council meeting schedule to schedule the City Council Rules of Procedure meeting, special meeting for 6 p.m. on Monday, February 28th, 2022, and the Personnel Evaluations meeting at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you for scheduling those for us, and we look forward to them. That concludes regular business this evening. Next up is the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda this evening for further discussion and consideration? Councilmember Abraham.
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Abraham and supported by Councilmember Brooks that we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. All items on the consent agenda have been approved this evening. Next up are memorandums and future council agenda items. K1 is an announcement of a public hearing. Preliminary site plan review, file number SP 2021-0020, proposed Adler Cove, one family residential cluster south side of Long Lake, east of John R., parcels number 88-20-13-100-012, number 88-2013-100-014, and number 88-20-13-100-025, currently zoned R1C, one family residential zoning district. City Attorney Bloom or City Manager Miller, is anything special you wanted to point us in the direction of that this evening? Didn't think so. Just making sure. All right, that concludes memorandums and future council agenda items this evening. Next up is public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. There's nobody signed up for that this evening, so again, no need for reply, which leads us to council referrals. There are none this evening, so we move on to reports. Does anyone on council have any comments on the reports this evening? Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions for city management from 002B. That's the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds and final rule. So thank you for sharing that. That was very helpful. If I understand correctly from that is the next time we will really see kind of a recommendation or vision from city management around the allocation of, say, ARPA dollars, that would be when we hit the budget process. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the other question is, does it require a separate public hearing to approve the use of those ARPA funds, or is that part of the public hearing for the budget?
Not to my knowledge, does it require an additional public hearing? Wait, Chief CFO Rob Melzak came on, he can probably answer that.
It would just be through the normal budget process, nothing special for ARPA.
Okay, absolutely. And also just to confirm, these, in the use of these dollars, we also will have to have those special audits for these at the end of the fiscal year.
Rob, can you talk about the single audits?
Sure, absolutely, yeah, because if we receive over $750,000 in federal funding or spend over $750,000, we'll have to do a single audit. And so what that means is same process as last year when we got all that CARES Act money. I foresee us having single audits at least for the next several, 3 to 4 years for sure.
Thank you.
Chair?
Yeah.
Rob, can you explain how we did an engagement which included a price for the single audit? Because it is above and beyond the normal audit process.
Right, part of our audit contract is for a single audit, it's approximately $5,000 for them to do the additional procedures, which include some testing of internal controls, our purchasing process, and also the use of our federal funds. And so for every extra major program, it's an additional $2,000 or $3,000. So it's built into our audit contract.
Thank you. Any other comments on the reports this evening? As always, some good and meaty ones. I appreciate city staff for putting those out there, and I encourage our residents to read our reports, the department reports. There's a lot of good information out there. That concludes the report section. Next up are council comments. Any council comments this evening? Councilmember Hoderick.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two items I wanted to note. I was seeing on social media that the U.S. Election Assistance Commission has announced that tomorrow, January 25th, is designated as the second annual National Poll Worker Recruitment Day. And I'm pretty sure our own city clerk and her team are all about that, right? Look, having people step up to be poll workers is important. You can learn more about it by visiting helpamericavote.gov. If you want to go to the national page, and you'll see that, you might have friends in other cities or other states even interested. You can see that there are links to how to get involved. And when you live in Troy, it links you right to our city clerk's information here, which you can also find right on our own city webpage, troymi.gov. The information is there, and I would encourage anyone who has been extra fascinated about the election processes, having questions about it, the more you get involved, the more you learn, the more you're part of the fantastic work that our city clerk's office does. And if I may follow up with a second item, today we watched our neighbors, our Oxford High School students to the north of us return to school today, and I saw that Athens on Twitter was encouraging students to wear the Oxford colors, so I did that again tonight myself. And I know many of us are paying attention. We're holding friends and neighbors we know in our thoughts because our connections are real. Many of us know people directly impacted. Also, the first responders affected by that shooting, including those from our Oakland County Sheriff's Department and our own Troy Police Department, who were involved in the multi-jurisdictional response. It's a training that, an eventuality that they train for that they hope to never use. All these folks also know members of that community, and many of them now personally managing through the trauma they themselves experienced from that response. I personally keep thinking of a former classmate of my own children who teaches now at Oxford. I first knew her as a Troy High School student, very bright and talented. She happened to alter her routine that day, or she would have been in that very hallway herself. That thought haunts me, and so every day I keep thinking about her. She is one of Troy's own, if you will, now working to help her students heal, even as she herself copes with the impact of that day. She and so many experiencing the reality of meeting the definition of gun violence survivor are now in a club that no one should ever have to be a part of. This morning, I was watching, and I brought this with me tonight, my police department pin and flag when we lose officers. I watched an interview with the teachers of the 22-year-old police officer in New York. And the teachers speaking of him and his character and his passion for helping others and the trauma they're experiencing. They now are survivors as well. As we lift all these folks in our thoughts on this first day back in Oxford and think of other incidents that maybe are impacting us all, it is timely to note that the 4th annual National Gun Violence Survivors Week is coming up. It's February 1st through 7th. I've seen that also on social media. This is a week of remembrance for all victims and survivors of gun violence, and it's intended to uplift all those resilient voices of survivors across our nation. And to also, on their behalf, cause us all to pause and focus intentionally on the importance of responsible firearm ownership and storage, and to recognize a number of sobering facts and realities we all face in terms of keeping our communities safe, which is the #1 priority of our residents. And that includes that firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens. As we continue to be Oxford strong, may we all remember them all and our individual responsibilities to be part of what makes our communities safe today, during National Gun Violence Survivors Week, and all year long as we work together to keep our communities safe. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Hoderick. Anyone else on council for council comments? Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga.
Thank you, Mayor. And just thank you, Councilmember Hoderick, for those very moving words. Indeed, a very sobering and difficult day for our neighbors down the road. Something I wanted to share, also thinking of our children, and it came to mind actually as Representative Koopa spoke today about, at the very end, about a cricket field. And of course, we would love to make that happen overnight. But something I did want to celebrate, something I did notice this weekend as I was looking through the recreational department, looking through the offerings of different courses, classes for children and those of all ages for the recreation department here, is there's now cricket classes are offered. And I just really want to, and it is advertised as a new offering, and it appears to be with one of the organizations that I believe we've heard from, and we have come to some of our meetings. And so very happy to see those connections and to see that offering in the city of Troy, and really want to thank Brian Gould, Recreation Director, and City Management for those great offerings to have in our community. And on that note of recreation, another small little thing to share is last week I had the honor to go to Sterling Heights to celebrate our new Michigan Municipal League president, Barb Ziarko. She's a councilwoman there, and was just elected president. And serving on the MML board, had the honor to go there and to meet with their mayor, to meet with their city management as well. And they send the regards to all of you, to our mayor, all of our council and city management. And as we talked a little bit, it was interesting. One thing was mentioned about some of their own initiatives they have, and one is including around trails and pathways. So of course, they have the Clinton River system, and they talked about a trail and pathways that may even stretch up at some point to Troy. And so that made me think and just remember the power of connections in our neighboring municipalities, that there's always, it's always important to be, as much as we can, to be out there, have those conversations, because you never know when you can find those linkages and opportunities. So just great to see, and it was a good reminder for me to just make sure I'm connecting with my neighbors at different times.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga. Anyone else? Just have two quick things. Last week I had and it was an honor to speak briefly at a graduation ceremony for the Chamberlain College of Nursing, 49 graduates who graduated last Wednesday evening. And I just wanted to remind everyone in our community, if you didn't know, we have a nursing school here that is putting healthcare heroes right out into the field. Many of them already had jobs, and boy, are they hitting the ground running. And it was a really special evening for me to get to meet some of them and to speak briefly and pretty much say, I don't know anything that I could possibly say that would help you, because you're already doing amazing things. But they were all very kind and pretended that it was worth having me there. But it really is neat. I mean, that school puts out nursing graduates, like I think 3 times a year. And as you know, it's a big deal right now. And so just hold those people up in your thoughts, and all of our healthcare heroes, of course, and our first and frontline responders who continue to risk their lives at times and go above and beyond to keep us safe. Which leads me also to our DPW out there tonight, clearing our streets. I imagine when we leave tonight, it'll be an even better drive home than it was coming in, because they've been working nonstop. And I want to thank DPW staff and Director Kurt Bovenseed for always making sure we're well informed through the city manager of what's happening. So if residents ask us, we can help. And be safe out there, everybody, and give them the room they need to do the job that they have to do. We don't have ordinance that say get your car off the street, but common sense says it's a pretty good idea if you can make it easier for them, so it's easier for you, and recognize that they'll be working all night and we'll be asleep most likely. So I always like to appreciate DPW, especially on a snowstorm. So it's good timing. So thank you for that. That concludes council comments this evening. Nobody's here for public comment for items on or not on the agenda for members of the public outside of Troy. We do have a closed session this evening, so we'll recess here and adjourn and meet back up in about 5 minutes for the closed session, and we'll adjourn from there afterwards. We're recessed.